Hello, everyone. As always, I hope you're all keeping incredibly well. So, in my last vlog, quite honest, can't quite remember what I was talking about, but I think I'm just about to remember the thread. But following that, I think it was about sharing some information about how how you get going with this stuff, and I think that seed kind of stayed in my mind a bit really, and I was really reflecting, and I have to think a while back now because kind of got to go back into the 1990s when I started as an apprentice as to what are the first things you do as an apprentice. What's the expectation out there? Do you think that if you're an apprentice, the first thing you do is cutting dovetails or whatever? I've got to be honest, my experience was nothing like that. I was quite fortunate. I had worked through like summer holidays and been around practical people. So you'd always be absorbing information and how people did things. But as an apprentice, it was fetching and carrying. And at the time, you can be tempted to think, oh, what am I learning from this? Fetching and carrying. But what it certainly teaches you is the names of things, whether it's the tools, whether it's something that you're working on, what the components of, say, a window are. The frame, you've got the sill, jambs, head, transoms, mullions, doors, whether you've got stiles, middle rail, bottom rail, muntins, frieze rails, different panelling. And you start to build up the vocabulary and you understand, and it's that kind of osmosis, it kind of builds up. And I was kind of thinking about what kind of tools and what the expectation would have been for me to do, specifically when thinking about hand tools. And I think it was pretty much hammer, chisel, saw, square, and a pencil. And it might sound a bit crude, but it was, pick a handsaw up like at the time it was these kind of things, contractor saws, of which I still use a great deal. They're very good. Not a small tenon saw or a small back saw, and a hammer, which is a claw hammer. I think I had an Est wing with a blue handle, and at a decent weight, one you're going to go driving in for stud work and, with a block of wood knocking together a frame or something like that, and some quite robust chisels and a square and a pencil. So the first things you'd be doing would be, if you're working with somebody on site, if you think you put in the effort, it's like, well, can you cut me off some 4x2s to make some stud work? With your tape measure, can you measure off and can you cut them all the same length, and are they square enough and respectable enough? As we know, with studs, they're going to be nailed in position, they're going to be covered up. So if it's not perfect, you can get away with a little bit, and then you get to practice. Or you might cut in some herringbone strutting or strutting in floor joists, roofing battens, and all those movements you do in kind of big, gross hand and body movements, which I think stands you in really good stead. Even knocking noggins in or a stud in, you're knocking it in, or that knocking in the nails. It might seem far removed from learning how to use a chisel, but at the same time, you've got to know where the head of your chisel is. That's a lot bigger than a 4-inch nail. So if you can draw back a hammer and smack it down, and no good contractor or carpenter is going to leave hammer rash over anything. So if you can do that, you should be able to easily get your mallet of choice or whatever, and you'll be able to consistently, without looking, just get to know where that is. And if you can do it in a gross motor way, big movements, you should be able to refine that down. So to bring all of that kind of nonsense together a bit, what I was thinking of was well, what should you learn to do first? And I think most woodworkers who are interested in hand tools, they'll get onto some websites, and the most alluring photos are of, the ever popular hand plane taking off lovely curly thin shavings because it looks dramatic, it looks romantic. Nobody shows pictures of someone cutting with a saw accurately. But I genuinely think if you want to just get going, buy yourself a saw, square, and a pencil, and pick up a few lengths of 4x2 and start learning how to cut them off square. And I think I'm probably going to do a video on that, as ridiculous as that sounds. And I think I see a lot of stuff about, you know, a certain stance to have and all this and that and the other about how you need to correct yourself. And that can be true to an extent, but I think you find that balance yourself. All of our statures are a little bit different. The main thing is you don't want to be too narrow and too uncomfortable. But when I do a video, you see more of it. But say, for instance, I was out on a job the other day using this one, and I didn't have any chance to use any perfect stance. I was having to use a saw upside down. I was having to cut. And with that, you just get a feel for the resistance, and you're having to just cut and keep the motion going. So, you know, and also you can be in some awkward places sometimes and you've just got to cut to a line, and that's what it comes down to, bit of feel and cutting to the line. And how do you do that? Just practice, you know. So I thought I'd quickly touch on a few options that you might consider for your first saw. Now these ones, I used to use the Sandvik 244 hardpoint saw. And that was great. If anything, I found it a little bit coarse, and I picked up this one which is a bit shorter and fit in my toolbox. And for all round, for most things I do, I find it to be really, really good. The blade is, I don't know, I think I measured them before, but it's not loads of difference. It's not taper ground, obviously, or anything like that. And yes, it's unfortunate, it's a plastic handle. You're not going to be able to resharpen these. Some people say, you know, you get your diamond files out. Genuinely, if you want to do that, that's fine. It's not something I'm going to be doing. I'm also probably not going to cut these up for scrapers or anything like that. But these are very convenient. Any kind of builder's merchants, you can pick these up for like £7, and they're razor sharp, and that sharp edge lasts for ages. One thing you'll notice is probably when it's brand new, it's like super razor sharp, almost a bit coarse. But it's really affordable. You know, you can't go wrong with one of these. And if you can use one of these well, you can use any saw well. It's just some people might feel uncomfortable about things, you know, not being able to resharpen it. And I get that, but it depends. If you're using just nice new workshop style timber, it's going to take you ages to make that thing blunt. And buying a saw file, the saw pliers, and learning how to do that might not be something you're ready for yet, so don't discount that one. The handle does look crude, but it's more comfortable than you'd think. It looks the crudest here, but when I run through in a minute, for me it's not the most uncomfortable of the three. This one is a nice Diston, a D8, 10 teeth per inch, and this one's really nice. It's properly taper ground. I checked before, and it shows. This is made for when there was still some appreciation. Yeah, the handle's not as amazing as some of the earlier saws are available, but it's nice. My hand fits in this really nicely. It's just really lovely, you know. But I was lucky. I picked up that for like £5 at a vintage fair. You can't drive around for the rest of your life hoping to pick up a saw like that for £5. It's not going to happen. It's just something you get lucky with. And I sharpened it up and it's great. Then there's this thing. I looked online some time ago and I wanted something that was close to the Diston, but very affordable. Got the same teeth per inch, and I swear some of Spear & Jackson stuff, it sounds almost like motorcycle names. Like the 9500R. That sounds like it's ready to do the Nürburgring. Or their little tenon saw, the 5410Y. I don't think it's ready to motocross. But anyway, this one, what's nice about this is that it's ridiculously good value. I mean, that Irwin is cheap, but I looked on Amazon, and if you search the beautifully named 9500R, I think you can get them on Amazon Prime at the moment I've put this video up for like £15 or £17. That's ridiculous. That's so cheap. What you won't get with that is it's not taper ground. That doesn't matter so much. If you're working in drier timber and you're going to be making furniture style pieces at home, I don't think it's going to be anything too much to panic about. Yes, that's superior, and yes, you can get modern saws whose makers do an excellent job of replicating this kind of quality, but you pay for that, and some people may not be in a position to do that right now. But this one, you know, it's a skew back design. This one has the most handle, which is the most unpleasant to hold out of all three of them. Personal preference, some people may think different. It's also overset. I don't really have anything to measure it, but I can feel with my fingers that the teeth are overset. So it's going to, one advantage is if you're a bit inexperienced, you can probably steer it a bit if you start coming off. That one is not quite as heavily set, and with mine I don't run a great deal of set on that one at all. But what's great about this one is if you do want to have something to resharpen, this is a really cheap way to get into that. And it's delivered for like less than 20 quid. I don't know how you can offer something for that. You'd want to remove the protective lacquer coating because that's going to just grip on what you cut. We'll take a look at how we do that. And what's a real shame with this is I really wish, like on their small tenon saw or come dovetail saw where they've got screws in it, if this could only have been screwed on, you know, I'd have paid an extra 5 quid for this just to have been screwed on. You could unscrew it and make a handle with a better fit, because the gap in there compared to this one is, I think, about 10 millimeters bigger, which doesn't sound much, but it's just, it feels very crude. And the problem is, because you haven't got much material there, it can look a bit of a compromise. You can improve the look of it, but at least it hasn't got any like horrible red coating on it, so you can mess around with it. But that said, even though it's not a really comfortable handle, there's no reason why you can't do good work with it. So yeah, if you're interested in this concept that we're kind of putting forward, where it's like, how do you start? Don't look at planes. Don't do that. First thing, look at a saw. You know, any builders merchants or contractors. These Irwin saws are made in Denmark, the ones that you can get in the UK. That's a nice idea, but good luck. You can obviously pay good money for a nice saw. And again, you're looking for something sort of like 8 to 10 teeth per inch, panel saw size. Or you could look at this Spear and Jackson, which, you know, for sub 20 quid delivered, that's a great option. I can't believe I'm going to do it, but next video I'll probably look at pencil and a square and a tape measure, you know, some options on that. And then we'll just do some basic cutting, you know, and don't beat yourself up. The first one ain't great. You know, if you buy a couple of 8-foot studs and you're just cutting off 20 mil at a time as you go back through, you're going to be learning something. So yeah, hope you found that interesting. Anyway, I'll put this video up and see what you think. All right, catch you soon.